dealership that day, sold it all to a wholesaler, and moved on to a different career. But, growing up in small business, you recognize that it's not always as easy as it looks from the outside. It can quickly turn on you, and it's all about planning and thinking through, being thoughtful about how you're setting things up.
I could not agree with you more on what you just spoke about. As you know, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I started out in accounting. Well, that's what I got my degree in, but I got my degree in, I was 24 years old, but I started out about 17 or 18 years earlier than that when I was working. So, but my degree was in accounting, but I teach entrepreneurship and help people be self-employed. And I've had a lot of businesses, but you're exactly right about partnership. And so I'm going to give a piece of advice that I hope gives you some business. Anybody that is going to go into business for themselves and they're trying to save money, cut corners, just do as much as they can themselves to get it up and running, in the long run, you are going to just hurt yourself if you don't make sure that you have very, very good, competent legal counseling along the way. You have to do things the right way. If you don't do it the right way, it is guaranteed to come back to haunt you. And so I've had partnerships, and I had a partner once in a very large business deal, and he had a terrible reputation. And I don't want to give too many clues, because somebody that might put it together know who I'm talking about. But I'm not going to identify. But he had a terrible reputation, and I took care of all the relationships, and I was thanked by everybody. I'm so glad I'm dealing with you, Steve, and not him. And because that person, backed out of every single deal, whatever he felt like doing, he did, and he had money and he had power. But I had some pretty good lawyers put the deal together, and thank God I did, because if I hadn't, I would have spent a lot of years working in a deal that it wouldn't have ended up the way it should have. So bottom line is that it's okay to have a legal agreement between close friends also. And I'll let you explain that. I can explain it, because my lawyer, Todd Preddy, is just a wonderful lawyer also. But a lot of people don't want to pay for lawyers, but they think nothing's ever going to go wrong. So how about talking about that aspect of being a lawyer, and examples, whatever you want to give, to where best friends sometimes don't end up where they thought they were. And if they didn't have a proper partnership agreement, the right legal documents in place, a disaster happened.
Right. Most of our clients are more mature businesses. But my friends come to me from time to time and say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. And the partner's often a friend, because that's who who else would you find as a partner? And oftentimes there's a lot of tension. I often say, one person has to be in charge, and they're thinking it's going to be 50-50 the whole way. And that you might be able to do a really small operation that way for some period of time. But at the end of the day, usually there has to be a decision maker. Otherwise, it just creates a whole nother set of messes. And I had recently a friend of a friend. I won't give any details on this either, but she came into a small business with her best friend. She showed me the text when they started the business. It was all lovey-dovey. They just did a common law partnership, no lawyers involved. And 2 years later, accusations start flying around. All of a sudden, one person locks the other person out of this. It's just this huge mess. And she comes to me and she says, well, how do I untangle this? And I said, well, we're looking at, at least $15,000 of legal time to really, if you want to meet the objectives that you're telling me that you want. And I was like, the value of the business is like $2,000 or $3,000. You shouldn't do this. It was, I was like, don't even consider this. She's like, but I'm mad. And I was like, well, let's talk tomorrow, because people have to, but she comes to me the next day and she's like, how much would this have cost us to just set it up the right way? It's like, I don't know, $500. So it's getting people, and usually what happens, and we've seen this a couple of times, is the first time people don't do it right, they get burned. And then the second time they come in and they get a lawyer or they set things up the right way to succeed. But usually the first time, at least from what I've seen, maybe you've seen something else, they'll do it wrong and they'll learn from it. And then they understand the value of the work that I'm putting in.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that you sort of hinted around at that's there is if you set it up wrong and the person that didn't work out as your partner, you have to be very, very careful that you don't end up paying bills, assume liabilities, because you want to keep your good name intact. You're going to keep your credit. And in some business deals, the other person knows that they're going to take advantage of the person that has the better character. If you're a person of good character and you have a bad partner, you risk that they might walk out on you and know that you're going to take care of everything because they know that you're that kind of person. And so that's one of the worst situations that a person can be in, is somebody taking advantage of you, embezzling or stealing from the company that you're into with the partnership. But so let's stay on that for a minute, because that's a very deep point that I'm trying to make that you're expert at. You can't go into business without having good credit. You're always going to need credit. I mean, you can go into business, but your chances of success are going to be very, very small. And so, I mean, you need credit when you're in business. You need to have people that will work with you, because something might happen and you got to end up relying on some credit, things out of your control. And so the example I gave, maybe you can reach deep into your memory bank here. Do you know anybody that had to pay bills for a long time because they had a bad deal that they got stuck with?
Off the top of my, yeah.
Yeah? You say, yeah, you do?
Yeah, if you can get into, yeah, I can think of, yeah.
Well, I don't need any names, but what I'm saying is this. In all my teachings, I teach character and integrity. I try to help people get to where they have good character and integrity. They rebuild their credit, or they establish credit, keep it good. Sometimes they have to rebuild it. But I just try to caution people that you can't just go into business with an idea. Talk about when you help somebody set up a business, what's the process that you put them through? We might as well give some good business advice here to people that want to get out there and work for themselves.
So quickly going back to a point that you made before about having to pay the obligations of someone else. Usually when people are just sort of doing things on the fly, what they'll do is it'll be like you and me. We're Steve and Igor going into business. We're selling, hot dogs on the street. So we've created, whether or not we know it, a common law partnership. Right. So any obligation that I take, if I buy 1 billion hot dogs, you owe 50% of that, no matter what. And you can actually owe up to 100%. So that's the prototypical deal that people usually do if they don't know what's going on. And that is extremely dangerous. And so going back to what you were just talking about, when you start a business, you want to avoid that. You want to set up an entity, whether it's a corporation or an LLC. Usually it's going to be an LLC for most people. And moving from idea to action is you're lifting a mountain, right? Because everyone has ideas. Everyone has their $1 billion idea, but putting pen to paper, and this is something we've talked about elsewhere, helps you recognize where your problems are. I got a call from a guy that I met who said, I want to buy 250 unit multifamily apartments. So I did, the math and just quick math. And I was like, we're talking about $20 million. I was like, so how are you, do you have access to credit or anything? He's like, oh no, we'll figure that out. I was just like, well, let me know when you do, but everyone has an idea. But putting pen to paper helps you say, okay, so I need $20 million. How am I going to get that? And you get to see those gaping holes in your thoughts well before you need anyone else to be involved.
That's a good example. Not very many people can think in terms of putting together a $20 million deal. I did a deal that was a $20 million deal, and I did it when I owned my marina down in Ocean View. And I worked on it for a couple years, and I had a bank give me a approval letter, but it was contingent upon me pre-selling. At the marina that I had down in Ocean View, I worked closely with the city of Norfolk, and it was going to be a signature building. And it was going to be on the ground level was going to be a coffee shop similar to a Starbucks. Starbucks didn't want to come down there at the time, but it was another coffee shop that was like a regional coffee shop that was really good. And so they were ready to do it. And then I had the parking, and then it was going to be a condominium with penthouses on the top. And so it was a good financial model, selling penthouses and having a coffee shop and all this stuff. And so BB&T Bank was our bank of record back then. And so they gave me an approval for a $20 million loan, but it was contingent upon pre-selling 80% of the units. So I had an opportunity, and I made presentations. I did a lot of things, and I got a national architectural firm involved. And this is a real quick one here. I had a fixed contract for $25,000 for the architectural work.
That's awesome.
And they billed me for $75,000. And so I complained, and the first level that I went to said, well, they kept track of the hours, and this is how much it is. And I said, I'm not paying it because I have a fixed contract. And the guy that was working on it loved the project, and he just got real into it and did a whole lot of work. But so I finally I paid him the $25,000. I mean, I had some startup money that we got into this with some partners. But what I'm trying to say is that you made a great point. You've got to know where the money's going to come from and that it's a feasible model, because otherwise you're going to put your life savings into something and then it's not going to happen and you're not going to know why. So the importance of a business plan in writing, I teach a whole business plan course on all the benefits of why you have to do it. And so thank you for bringing that up. So the project never happened because we had a recession in the economy, and luckily I hadn't committed to it. I was doing really well though. I had pre-sold about 60% of the units, but we were unable to finish because it was 2008, by the way.
Yeah.
2008. So we had a recession, and luckily I hadn't broke ground, and I was able to walk away from the deal. So, okay, let's go back to your childhood though. You're a 2-year-old that comes to America with your parents who had an opportunity to leave the Russian, the Eastern European lifestyle where they were anti-Semitic there. And you came here and you got help from the Jewish Federation. You went to Temple Israel. And so how about your mom, though? How about your mom? What's she doing along all this?
She's doing odds and ends. She was a maid for a long time, which was good and bad for me because she made me keep my room super sparkling clean. But, that's, neither one of my parents really had any skills, could really barely speak English. So, they were resigned to do those jobs, but they never, after a couple of years, they stopped working for people because they recognized that that's the way to financial freedom. Even if you're a maid, if you're working for yourself, you can still make a lot of money an hour. So that's sort of was her direction. Okay. So was your mom a good cook? If she ever listens to this, I have to say yes. So.
Oh, that's not right. That's not right. I mean, she brought a lot of recipes with her, I hope.
Yes, she sure did. Yeah.
So what was your favorite dish, whether she cooked a lot of good dishes or not? What was your favorite dish that your mom gave you?
Borscht, which is would beet soup essentially with cabbage and potatoes, and you put sour cream on top.
Oh, I love borscht.
Yeah.
Now, do you know why I like beets?
Why is that?
Beats me. Yeah, I thought I'd get that in real quick. Yeah. So you came to America. So you did listen to my Reflections of Freedom. Did you have any takeaways on anything that I brought forth on that show?
Well, what are your takeaways from it, and I can comment on them.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I think I agree with the gist. Oh,
wow. Okay. Land of opportunity. That's the first statement that I'm going to throw at you. Is America, in your life experience, a land of opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things. That's one of the central ideas of that makes up who I am. If you want to do something, you generally have the opportunity, and the upward mobility that we have here is remarkable. A lot of my immigrant friends went on to do and are doing amazing things right now And they started just where I started with nothing, no connections, no, no pedigree. And I think if you set your mind to it, no matter where you start, you have those opportunities.